Un vulcano di idee con la Pilli che diventano aziende di successo, la Pilli che sembrano diamanti, cavati nelle miniere della nazione natia, il Sudafrica. Si parla di Elon Musk, tanti personaggi in uno, poliedrico, per molti prestigiatore, ma le sue ricchezze non sono virtuali, sono diventate concrete.
When did it all start?
It's not when or where, but who.
It starts with the world's oldest supermodel.
Her name is May, like the month, but with an E at the end.
Thanks for spelling my name, Elon.
It says May Haldeman immigrated from Canada to South Africa in 1950. 20 years later, she married Elon Musk, and a year after that, in 1971, Elon was born.
Yeah, he always was very curious, and when he started reading, anything he read, he memorized. I mean, he knew exactly what he'd read.
I thought I was insane
Why'd you think you were insane?
because it was clear that other people did not. Their mind wasn't exploding with ideas.
They wouldn't understand
I
you?
hope they wouldn't find out because they might like put me away or something.
You thought that?
For a second, yes.
He hated going to school because the other kids liked to follow him home and they would throw soda cans at his head.
Wasn't his parents' marriage tumultuous?
Yeah, Errol was allegedly abusive.
Allegedly.
Did you suffer that kind of abuse?
Yes. You know, there was a saying in South Africa, when you get divorced, you stop falling in the shower. Because every time you have a scene with bruises, you said you fell in the shower.
Elon never talks about his father.
Why is that?
Whenever the topic of Errol arrives, members of Elon's family clam up. They're in agreement that he is not a pleasant man to be around.
It was not a happy childhood. My father has serious issues.
Nato a Pretoria nel 1971, Elon era un bambino triste e incompreso, di quelli che spesso finiscono nei progetti di recupero, vittima di bullismo perché è diverso, diverso nei comportamenti, diverso nell'equilibrio familiare, costretto ad emigrare, a fuggire, a rifugiarsi nel computer prima del trasferimento materiale negli States.
So he sought refuge in computer games, which got him into coding.
He made a space-themed video game called Blaster.
What did video games do for you?
And they made me want to learn how to program computers. Because then I thought, well, I could make my own games.
You get to control something.
Yeah, you can construct a little universe.
Musk è imprenditore naturalizzato statunitense. Negli Stati si è laureato in economia e fisica all'Università della Pennsylvania. Dal 1999 ha pescato nel suo pozzo di idee, cofondando una società di pagamenti online, XCOM, che fondendosi con Confinity ha dato via a PayPal, il sistema di pagamento via internet più grande del mondo. Solo il primo passo. Nel 2003 ha cofondato l'azienda automobilistica statunitense produttrice di veicoli e propulsori elettrici innovativi Tesla Motors.
Elon, what kind of crazy dream would persuade you to think of trying to take on the auto industry and build an all-electric car?
Well, it goes back to when I was in university. I thought about what are the problems that are most likely to affect the future of the world, or future of humanity. I think it's extremely important that we have sustainable transport and sustainable energy production. That sort of overall sustainable energy problem is the biggest problem that we have to solve this century, independent of environmental concerns. In fact, even if producing CO2 is good for the environment, given that we're going to run out of hydrocarbons, we need to find some sustainable means of operating.
But most of American electricity comes from burning fossil fuels. How can an electric car that plugs into that electricity help?
Right. There's two elements to that answer. One is that even if you take the same source fuel and produce power at the power plant and use it to charge electric cars, you're still better off. So if you take, say, natural gas, which is the most prevalent hydrocarbon source fuel, if you burn that in a modern General Electric natural gas turbine, you'll get about 60% efficiency. If you put that same fuel in an internal combustion engine car, you get about 20% efficiency. And the reason is, in the stationary power plant, you can afford to have something that weighs a lot more, is voluminous, and you can take the waste heat and run a steam turbine to generate a secondary power source. So in effect, even if you take in transmission losses into account and everything, even using the same source fuel, you're at least twice as better off charging an electric car than burning it at the power plant.
That scale delivers efficiency.
Yes, it does. And then the other point is we have to have sustainable means of power generation anyway, electricity generation. So given that we have to solve sustainable electricity generation, then it makes sense for us to have electric cars as the mode of transport.
Dirompente, Elon Musk non si ferma mai. Crea la Space Exploration Technologies Corporation, SpaceX, di cui è amministratore delegato e CTO, l'unica società privata a lanciare un razzo in orbita e l'unica a inviare un veicolo spaziale e a farlo agganciare con successo alla Stazione Spaziale Internazionale.
How did you get the expertise to be the chief technology officer of a rocket ship company?
I do have a physics background. That's helpful as a foundation. And then I read a lot of books and talked to a lot of smart people.
You're self-taught?
Yeah. Well, self-taught, yes, meaning I don't have an aerospace degree.
So how did you go about acquiring the knowledge?
Well, like I said, I read a lot of books, talked to a lot of people, and have a great team.
There are people who've been in the rocketry business for decades who say about you that you don't know what you don't know.
Well, I suppose that's true of anyone. How can anyone know what they don't know?
But when critics say you can't do this, your answer to them is...
We've done it.
Il mondo che ritorna, nella sua prospettiva, era quello in cui si rifugiava da bambino, con gli eroi che lo portavano tra le stelle, per immaginare una nuova umanità. Ciò che inizialmente lo addolora è il tradimento da parte di alcuni di quegli eroi.
And then came the betrayal.
Who betrayed him?
SpaceX's lack of experience bothers some NASA legends, like Apollo astronauts Neil Armstrong and Gene Cernan.
But having cut my teeth in rockets more than 50 years ago, I am not confident.
Now is the time to overrule this administration's pledge to mediocrity.
You know, there are American heroes who don't like this idea. Neil Armstrong, Gene Cernan, and I wonder what you think of that.
I was very sad to see that because those guys are, those guys are heroes of mine, so it's really tough.
They inspired you to do this, didn't they?
Yes.
And to see them casting stones in your direction.
It's difficult.
Did you expect them to cheer you on?
So they're hoping they would.
What are you trying to prove to them?
I think he understood at that moment that he would never fit in.
But I think people can choose to be not ordinary. You know, they can choose to not necessarily conform to the conventions that were taught to them by their parents. So yes, I think it's possible for ordinary people to choose to be extraordinary.
But the edge can be a very interesting place to be. I mean, it can be lonely and painful and sometimes dangerous, and I don't mean to underplay any of that. But it's also the place where something is in the process of turning into something else. Revolution enters at the edges. Well, we've spent part, if not most, if not all of our lives trying to amputate those parts of ourselves that did not fit. You know, we've tried to be pleasing and we've tried to do what's expected, and we suck at it. And we eventually reach a point where we realize that we are so depressed or stuck or numbed out that the only way to save ourselves is to figure out how to be ourselves on purpose. Before we call these people visionaries, before they have that kind of success, we have other words for them. We call them, geek or outsider, socially awkward, weird, a little different, odd one out.
When critics say you can't do this, your answer to them is...
We've done it.
That's what outsiders do. They don't change the world from within by fitting in or conforming.
They change the world by creating a new one.
Abbiamo scelto questi 3 minuti per dare un valore assoluto alla storia di un visionario, riconducendole alla fonte della sua diversità. Una fonte di veleno, di sofferenze, di incomprensioni alle quali dovremo dare rimedio fin dai primi anni della scuola. Elon Musk ha accumulato energia nella sua obbligata chiusura infantile. Continua a sfornare sogni irrealizzati, guardando il cielo da un abbaino. Sembra il ragazzo di Eugenio Finardi che chiama l'estraterrestre dall'abbaino appunto. Diventa presidente di Solar City, compagnia specializzata in prodotti e servizi legati al fotovoltaico. Altra tappa verso il futuro.
To start with, the Solar City Corporation is a secondary company that is owned by Tesla. Solar City designs and sells solar panels along with solar roof tiles. It is headquartered in Fremont, California. After its acquisition in the year of 2016, all products and services from Solar City are sold through Tesla's website. The company also has a partnership with Panasonic. They manufacture solar module components in the Tesla Gigafactory in Buffalo, New York. Let's take a look at the history of Solar City. In the year of 2006, the Solar City company was founded by brothers Peter and Lyndon Rive. The company was founded, based on a suggestion for a solar company concept by their cousin, Elon Musk, who was the chairman and helped launch the company. By the year of 2009, solar panels that were made had the capability of generating 440 megawatts MW of power. In the year of 2011, the company started on their expansion to the East Coast, after gaining the solar division of Clean Currents in Grossolar. Following the acquisitions, Solar City expanded operations on the East Coast and opened in the states of Connecticut, Pennsylvania, South Carolina, Florida, Vermont, and New Hampshire. 2 years later in 2013, Solar City became the leading residential solar installer in the U.S. The Solar Power World magazine ranked the company as the #2 overall solar installation company in the U.S. within the same years. Solar City purchased Paramount Solar from Paramount Equity for $120 million.
Dal sole a internet, da un mondo lontano ad uno vicino e virtuale. Nel 2022 ha acquisito il 9,2% delle azioni di Twitter, diventandone il maggiore azionista.
Il consiglio di amministrazione di Twitter ci ha ripensato. Potrebbe accettare l'offerta da 44 miliardi di Musk. E così è stato. Una copertura in diretta quasi ora, per un'operazione da oltre $54 ad azione che potrebbe seriamente cambiare il volto della comunicazione online. Tutto nasce da una lunga serie di tweet di fuoco del miliardario sudafricano sulla libertà di parola, dai social network al web più in generale. Tra post e sondaggi per la sua community, Musk ha sempre mal digerito ogni tipo di censura o limitazione, al punto da definirsi un assolutista del free speech quando alcuni governi gli suggerirono di limitare l'accesso ai media russi su Starlink. Dopo qualche settimana è arrivata la notizia bomba. Come un fulmine a ciel sereno, Elon Musk ha acquisito il 9,2% di Twitter, ma per sua volontà non farà parte del consiglio. A distanza di qualche giorno poi, la clamorosa offerta per l'intero pacchetto. La pillola avvelenata del CDA per ostacolare l'ascesa del magnate ai vertici societari e poi il ripensamento finale con l'annuncio dell'affare alla chiusura dei mercati. Questo storico passaggio di testimone segnerà un cambio di passo importante per Twitter. Musk già da tempo aveva maturato l'idea di costruire un social network open source, decentralizzato e con la libertà di parola pressoché illimitata. Non è un caso quindi che abbia puntato proprio su Twitter, la piattaforma su cui il magnate ha maggiore seguito in assoluto, complice anche la community di Dogecoin, il cui valore per singolo token è cresciuto di oltre il 20% nel giro di poche ore.
Insignito di numerosi premi e riconoscimenti, con il suo lavoro e le sue società è riuscito a realizzare i suoi obiettivi iniziali: la lotta al riscaldamento globale, l'inquinamento ed esplorare lo spazio, per ritornare dentro l'uomo e tentare di comprenderne tecnologicamente il funzionamento e il controllo.
Really excited to show you what we've got. I think it's going to blow your mind. All of your senses, your sight, hearing, feeling, pain, these are all electrical signals sent by neurons to your brain. These can all be solved with an implantable neural link. This is sort of what it looks like. This is our little device. That thing at the bottom is just to hold the threads in place because they're just like little fine wires. In a lot of ways, it's kind of like a Fitbit in your skull with tiny wires. All you can see afterwards is that there's a tiny scar, and if it's under your hair, you can't see it at all. In fact, I could have a Neuralink right now, and you wouldn't know. Maybe I do. So, and it's also got all the things that you would expect to see, the sensors you'd expect to see in a smartwatch or a phone. So there's actually a lot of functions that this device could do related to monitoring your health and warning you about a possible heart attack or stroke or other damage, as well as sort of convenience features like playing music. You do a lot. It's sort of like if your phone went at your brain or something. Yeah, maybe that's not a great analogy. Anyway, so it's also inductively charged. So it's charged in the same way that you charge a smartwatch or a phone. And so you can use it all day, charge it at night, and have full functionality. So in terms of getting a link, essentially you remove about a coin-sized piece of skull, then the robot inserts the electrodes, then the device replaces the portion of skull that was removed, and we basically close that up with actually a super glue, which is how a lot of wounds are.
Secondo la classifica di Forbes del 2022, Musk è l'uomo più ricco del mondo. Stavolta possiamo anche dire, senza alcun dubbio, senza concorrenza. Le sue idee diventano realtà ad una velocità superiore. Partito da ultimo, per Elon Musk essere il primo è diventato il suo destino, senza porsi alcun limite, senza stabilire distanze, senza conoscere la linea del traguardo.
Did you expect them to cheer you on?
So they're hoping they would.
Say you can't do this. Your answer to them is,
we've done it.
That's what outsiders do. They don't change the world from within by fitting in or conforming.
They change the world by creating a new one.